Here's the plan. I'm going to be reading and you're going to be imitating me to improve your pronunciation. Then we take little pauses, and that's where I explain the grammar and vocabulary. That way you don't have to look at the dictionary, you can just enjoy the book. What's the book? Well, dude, it's the Metamorphosis. It's part 9. Gregor is about to get out of the room. Shit is about to hit the fan. If you are a patron after this video, you will get the review video, so more examples for the vocabulary and the grammar. As well, there's this new extra vocab video talking about regional vocabulary, continuing the topic from yesterday. This video talking about the regions and accents of the United States. To really benefit from these videos, remember, click the 3 dots and then open transcript. It'll be like you're reading the book with me. So I think we're ready. Let's go back and see how Gregor is doing. Gregor slowly pushed his way over to the door with the chair. Once there, he let go of it and threw himself onto the door, holding himself upright against it using the adhesive on the tips of his legs. He rested there a little while to recover from the effort involved and then set himself to the task of turning the key in the lock with his mouth. He seemed, unfortunately, to have no proper teeth. How was he, then, to grasp the key? But the lack of teeth was, of course, made up for with a very strong jaw. Using the jaw, he really was able to start the key turning, ignoring the fact that he must have been causing some kind of damage as a brown fluid came from his mouth, flowed over the key and dripped onto the floor. Listen, said the chief clerk in the next room. He's turning the key. Gregor was greatly encouraged by this, but they all should have been calling to him, his father and his mother too. Well done, Gregor. They should have cried, keep at it, keep hold of the lock. And with the idea that they were all excitedly following his efforts, he bit on the key with all his strength, paying no attention to the pain he was causing himself. As the key turned around, he turned around the lock with it, only holding himself upright with his mouth, and hung onto the key or pushed it down again with the whole weight of his body as needed. The clear sound of the lock as it snapped back was Gregor's sign that he could break his concentration. And as he regained his breath, he said to himself, so I didn't need the locksmith after all. Then he lay his head on the handle of the door to open it completely. Oh boy, Gregor is out of the room. Hallelujah. Before we celebrate, let's review some of the vocabulary here. An adhesive is something sticky. If something is adhesive, it is just sticky, like tape. So Gregor's buggy little legs are adhesive. It means that they stick to things, they cling. He sets himself to a task. To set yourself to a task means to start doing a task. This is just a common expression, to set yourself to a task. This is your jaw. A more formal term for this is your mandible, but we don't use that in common English. So he's using his jaw to open that door. Good job, Gregor. But when he did this, he started dripping a brown fluid. Ugh. If something is dripping, it is shedding or dropping little particles, little droplets of water. Think of a leaky faucet. It drips water. Drip, drip, drip. And you probably know this word and you use it, but look at the spelling here because it makes it look a little more confusing, but it's just wait. So it sounds exactly the same as the verb to wait, but it's spelled differently. Weight. The weight of your body, how much you weigh. So, oh my god, I think Gregor is outside of the room. Let's go take a look. Because he had to open the door in this way, it was already wide open before he could be seen. He had first to slowly turn himself around one of the double doors, and he had to do it very carefully if he did not want to fall flat on his back before entering the room. He was still occupied with this difficult movement, unable to pay attention to anything else when he heard the chief clerk exclaim aloud, "Oh!" which sounded like the soughing of the wind. Now he also saw him. He was the nearest to the door, his hand pressed against his open mouth and slowly retreating as if driven by a steady and invisible force. Gregor's mother, her hair still disheveled from bed despite the chief clerk's being there, looked at his father. Then she unfolded her arms, took 2 steps forward towards Gregor, and sank down onto the floor into her skirts that spread themselves out around her as her head disappeared down onto her breast. His father looked hostile and clenched his fists as if wanting to knock Gregor back into his room. Then he looked uncertainly around the living room, covered his eyes with his hands, and wept so that his powerful chest shook. Jeez Louise. Everybody knows now that Gregor is a bug. Some good vocabulary here, and also some words that we don't use. Let's take a look. To sough, this means to sigh or to make a moaning sound. This is not common at all. Ignore this word. If something is invisible, it means you cannot see it. And for his mother, there seems to be this invisible force causing her down onto the ground. Her hair is disheveled. If something is disheveled, it means untidy, very messy, unorganized, which is surprising for Gregor because he thinks that she would be well dressed for the clerk. Then he describes his father, who looks hostile. If someone looks hostile, it means they look angry, aggressive, which is a rational reaction when your son has turned into a bug. And he clenches his fist. To clench your fist means to make a fist, but to hold it very tight, usually because of anger. Okay, we will do one more paragraph. So Gregor did not go into the room, but leaned against the inside of the other door, which was still held bolted in place. In this way, only half of his body could be seen, along with his head above it, which he leaned over to one side as he peered out at the others. Meanwhile, the day had become much lighter. Part of the endless, gray, black building on the other side of the street, which was a hospital, could be seen quite clearly with the austere and regular line of windows piercing its facade. The rain was still falling, now throwing down large individual droplets which hit the ground one at a time. The washing up from breakfast lay on the table. There was so much of it because, for Gregor's father, breakfast was the most important meal of the day, and he would stretch it out for several hours as he sat reading a number of different newspapers. On the wall exactly opposite, there was a photograph of Gregor when he was lieutenant in the army, his sword in his hand and a carefree smile on his face as he called forth respect for his uniform and bearing. The door to the entrance hall was open, and as the front door of the flat was also open, he could see onto the landing and the stairs where they began their way down below. Whew. Freedom for Gregor, but a scared family. Let's do a quick review. Gregor leaned. To lean is to put some of your weight onto something else to support you, to prop you up. So his big bug body is leaning against the door to help him up, to prop him up. The door is bolted in place. A bolt here is like a screw. You bolt it through the door so that you can open it. It goes through the hinges. The hinges connect the door to the door frame. To peer means to look over or out through something. You can peer through a window, or I can peer over this microphone. If a thing is austere, it means it's just very simple, bare. A facade is the front of a building. And the picture that they're looking at shows Gregor in the past very carefree. Not like today. If you're carefree, it means you're not worried about anything. You feel happy and there's nothing on your mind. Nothing worrisome. Unlike today. Listen up, dudes. If you want to continue practicing by yourselves to reach fluency faster, listen to the podcast. Under this video, you can get books, audiobooks, a lot of other free stuff to help you. And remember to visit the For Your English website to get a lot of great articles and explanations to go with the videos. Besides that, dudios, put your comments and questions in the comments box and I will respond ASAP. For Your English is brought to you by amazing patrons like Nora. No, for real though. Thanks, dudes. And Nora, keep it up, being super serious with all of your studies. Did you stick around? Well, that's good to know. I have one more tip. This word, photograph. Photograph. The stress is in a different place than this word. Photographer. Photographer. Photograph. And photography. Photography. Photographer. Photograph. You got it?